again.
Welcome back.
Casey has allowed the cameras to roll again. And we're talking about us again, nephew.
Yes.
And we're going to get into the boobity bop.
The boobity beebity bop.
Everybody knows exactly. Say it again.
The boobity beebity bop.
Yes, that. Sometimes people just stop with the boobity bop, but you took it further.
Got to keep it going.
And I like that. I like that in you.
Do it one more time for me.
The boobity beebity bop.
With the eyebrows as well.
I'm excited. I don't know what even a boobity bop is.
I know.
There's a BBD in it.
I
We're
know.
going further
It's
than
like
that.
a layer cake.
Yes. So we had a discussion not too long ago about masculinity, hypermasculinity, and how it informs how one steps into this, not just image, this experience of Black manhood, and how it then shapes how you think about intimacy, relationships, success, all kinds of stuff. And we thought then too, to complement this, it might be good to have a conversation about womanhood, motherhood, particularly through the lens of a Black woman. And thinking about like that fight, the fight that we hope exists, you know, inside of that lens of motherhood. One of the things that I've been mentioning that I'm finding to be fascinating in the community work I'm doing, particularly now, and I don't know what is happening with Black people. It seems like a season where we're starting to be like, I think we're not well, and we probably should start working on our stuff.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is we always hear about daddy issues, particularly in the Black community. Mm-hmm. But the super secret that's in like the lockbox in the basement behind the rug and all of that are mommy issues. And nobody talks about them, but they're huge. Like mommy issues is a really big deal. And so when I was thinking about all of the blends of this, I'm like, there is a person and their story is complicated and phenomenal. And I remember we talking about this and you were like, you think that she'll tell the story? I'm like, I don't know. And so I asked Ann, this is, I guess we even forgot to introduce ourselves, but so long introduction. I'm Kimberly Brazwell.
I'm DeVaughn Croxton.
And this is
Lisa-Marie Rojas.
And we are going to be unpacking this beautiful, complicated story. So we're starting at the beginning, this beautiful little baby that was born that, and if I can just be salty and just, nephew, I don't even want you to hear this part.
Okay.
Right. You already got the headphones on, right? It's not pure hater mode, but this is my sister. And when my sister was born, this is how it went. People were like, oh my goodness, this beautiful baby, she looked like, you know what happened. She looked like Sade. Oh my goodness, she looked like Sade. And they were like, hey Kim, oh my goodness, Lisa, right. Played me, nephew. And I was like, wow.
I could not have been the biggest, dirtiest, grungiest tomboy though. So...
But people loved her.
It balanced out.
She has got the doe eyes and everything. And then they were like...
And then I had the Cleo cornrow, you know.
But they were nice,
crisscross.
Though. They were nice. And and people would be like...
It's not I exploited anything.
Well, but they would come in the house, they'd be like, I know one of y'all's biracial. And then they look at Lisa. And I'd be like, actually, it was me. But she had the baby hair.
That's usually how it starts. Can you? Why is it always the baby hair that's the
Can we talk about the baby hair? Well, listen, nephew.
Okay.
She's in denial about her baby hair.
Okay. She hasn't embraced the superpower, the gift that is baby hair.
She hasn't. So she's like, oh no, my hair's just like yours. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. We don't have the same hair, and it's cool. It's fine. Her hair, she gets it wet. It's like, oh my goodness, it curled up. It's frizzy. Let me tell you what my hair looks like, nephew. That's why there's no hair. You ever seen a dandelion when it's yellow?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
What happens when a dandelion gets older? Describe it.
Like the little things fly away.
White?
Yeah.
Fuzzy?
Fuzzy.
Right. Can you imagine if that was hair? Could you get baby hair out of that?
Probably not.
Right.
It would be difficult.
Right. At best.
At best. Even with a lot of chemicals and stuff, it still be.
Such as the Jerry curl, right?
Right.
On top of that. That's
Our
me.
audience knows about the Jerry curl now.
Bam. That's me.
So unfair. She hits below the belt every time.
I'm the dandelion. She's the baby hair. It's all good.
Yeah, but then she'd make DeBarge jokes about my family, my dad.
No. Okay.
That was the way of
right.
balancing it
Like,
out. Okay.
you know what I mean?
Not so much
there's
DeBarge,
no pride in it.
Okay, we're gonna test nephew, just generational blackness, and it's fine. And then we'll jump into the story here.
Okay.
But for context, it's helpful. Are you familiar with the song Caravan of Love?
Stop it, Kim.
Are you?
Caravan of Love.
Yes.
Who made the song?
Jasper Isley Jasper. Oh, he doesn't know.
If I heard it.
Ooh, he doesn't know. That's okay.
Full disclosure, most of these songs I'm well aware of, but they've either been sampled and remixed and all this other stuff, and then I know the original.
I'm not gonna lie to you, my left armpit is sweating a little bit. I'm a little bit uncomfortable that you don't know this. We're gonna take care of it behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Here's what you need to know. At a time when Michael Jackson, his curls popping, you got Prince with the boots and the booty out and all kind of thing. Jasper Isley Jasper, they were like, you know what? I think we can still rock these 70s clothes. So we about to do a beautiful song about people.
Feather, much
and love.
It's crispy.
And we're going to go out and we're going to take all of the people of the world and have them meet in a little neighborhood park. Mm-hmm. And we're going to sing songs and we're going to wear bootleg pants with stripes, no shirts, and we're going to let our chest hair sing in the sunlight. And we're going to wear vests, and we're going to have muffin chop sideburns.
It's a very vivid description.
And a relaxer.
Song is supposed to be beautiful. She's just aggressive.
Caravan of Love. And there's people playing. There's a dude, I'm not going to say he's husky, but he sweats a lot when it's warm outside. He's playing the guitar. It's a lot of things happening. It's a good time happening. The vibe is right. Mm-hmm. And the lead singer, he's the one coming out, Caramel Pleasure, singing the song, looking in the camera, the little soul patch kind of thing coming out.
Yeah.
And I saw him and I'm like, oh my God, Lisa, that's your daddy. That's exactly what your daddy looks like.
Picking on Damon.
Damon looked like, I'm like, listen, you don't know where he is right now. That might be him, and maybe he's making money singing Caravan of Love. I'm just saying, don't rule it out.
Embrace the mud job. Embrace the mud
Killing
job.
it. You need to check it out.
I'm going to check it out.
If you understand.
I can't resist now. You painted such a beautiful picture.
You need to know, and if you saw Caravan of Love and then you saw Lisa, you'd be like, whoa, maybe.
I mean, he did look a little like him, but you just make it so aggressive.
You don't think there's a striking resemblance between you and the Caravan of Love?
Feather.
Really?
Anyway.
Okay, anyway. So, Lisa's born, this beautiful child, right? And she comes into a family that's a little bit complicated. I would like to hear your perspective on how you would describe our household that you came into. Particularly mommy.
The only thing that I can think of, it was you. It was you. All my memories are of you, doing my hair, packing my lunchbox, little green lunchbox with applesauce sandwiches, and, making me rehearse a living color video, like the dance sequences and stuff like that. Like, it was me and you. Oftentimes, the memories that I had were mom displaced somewhere else, and we were always having to preoccupy ourselves so we weren't bothering her. Mm-hmm. I had normalized that, so I never really tried to process it because I thought that was normal. Mm-hmm. I haven't processed what that's supposed to look like until having my own children, and I didn't have an idea of it until I became a mother, especially to a daughter, because it's one thing when you have sons, it's a whole nother thing when you have a daughter. And when I look back, it was asking me now, because I never had an opinion of it before, was horribly dysfunctional and absent and kind of toxic. Mm-hmm. And lonely. It was a little lonely because at the same time, there were times where I wanted you to be able, like I knew you needed your own life. You didn't. There was something in me that knew you still needed to live your life.
Mm-hmm. And I want to give some context for this. So we have different fathers. And by the time you were born, no dads are in the house.
None.
And So there's an older brother.
We have Michael, but he was weaning himself out.
Yeah. Older brother's getting ready to.
He's weaning himself out. He's becoming more and more absent until one day he left and never came back.
Mm-hmm. And our mother has bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. So we have come up in a household where we understand mental illness personally.
Yeah.
Like we're watching a mom who's taking meds, going to therapy all the time, suicide ideation, very, very present in the household all the time. There were times where we would come home from school and she's not there.
Oh, yeah, many times. Like,
because
she was hospitalized or running amok or off dealing, whatever it was always something selfish. And half of the times was she was hospitalized, which means she was locked away and our access was limited to her. And sometimes she would make the conscious decision to put herself in those places because she felt like she was at risk or for
of harming herself or us.
Yeah.
And you feel like she did that as a form of protection if I can remove myself from the situation, or was it something else?
You can't ask me because I'm still dealing with that. Part of me thought it was just a cop out because she just didn't want to deal. She says she admits that she can't cope.
Yeah.
And that was her answer.
Yeah, and I think the
Just
challenge
check
is
out.
like when you feel like that, but all the kids are here, right? It's like one thing if you're stressed out and it's just you. It's another thing if you're stressed out and there's 3 kids there. And then what?
Right. Absolutely.
Then what do you do? So what ends up happening is in the absence of my mom being active in the house, I become the pseudo matriarch.
And tell the audience around what age that started for you.
13.
Wow.
13. So by the time it started happening in 8th, 9th grade, I'm transitioning. And by the time we were it was earlier than that. But like there was an emotional.
There's the definitive time was probably when you were 13, but it started younger than that.
It started because there was full takeover at around 13. But prior to that, between like
we were still at St. Thomas.
Around 8 to 10, emotional responsibility.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm upset. I can't do this. I need you to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And so when that's going on, of course, a child who's 8, 10 years old, doesn't realize that they need to take over.
And you're almost seeing it coming down the road. You're seeing patterns. You're seeing things unfold where it's like, wow, I might have to become a leader sooner than I thought.
Not even think, it's like you do.
It just needed done.
Wow.
It's because she wasn't doing it. It was.
So imagine if I can paint a picture. Imagine it's dinner time. You're hungry. Your sibling who's younger than you is hungry. And your mom is depressed and in her room. And you know she's not coming out.
And if you so much as knock on the door, it's a very negative reaction.
Right. Why are you bothering me?
Oh, not even that.
I can't handle it.
Oh, God, now what?
Yeah. Like she would literally, oh God. Well,
so you're discouraged from even, you're almost developing your routine to avoid that by the time it has to happen again.
Wow.
So then it's like, if I don't want that, then I need to take care of this over here. She's too little, so I'll make sure we eat, or, well, your hair has to get done. So I'll do your hair. Well, what are you going to wear tomorrow? Well, I'll pick out your clothes. Well, we got to get you to the bus stop.
You need a lunch. I'll pack your lunch.
Yeah. So then after a while, I'm getting the clothes ready. I'm making sure you get your bath. I'm making sure you get your hair done.
Yep.
We sleep in the same room.
Yep.
So bedtime is tied to me.
Yep.
When you wake up in the morning, I'm waking you up. I'm making sure your teeth get brushed.
Yep.
What I wasn't realizing as an older sibling was she was swapping out my mom for me.
Yep. You became that maternal role instantly.
And that meant what I didn't realize until we were much older. In becoming that role, the maternal role, I wasn't a sister.
I was just about to, absolutely.
Wasn't a sister. And what I didn't realize, and I'd like you to start speaking to this, is in I'm having my own experience as the pseudo matriarch at 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, mind you, I'm also trying to go to high school and play volleyball and run track and
everything.
You still figuring out yourself, let alone another human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if we remember from past episodes, 6 high schools, we're moving all the time. Mm-hmm. And there's this role. I also didn't realize, and this is where I really like for Lisa to start digging into her story. I didn't realize while I'm in my own trauma of the experience that's completely connected to my mother trying to figure out her own trauma, my sister's experiencing her own trauma. Yeah. And I didn't know what all my sister was going through. So can you, to the extent for what you want to share and what you don't want to share, right? But what was going on leading up to Anthony? The years, like middle school, high school.
Were we talking about like the rodents and everything?
No. Just like any kinds of experiences where we didn't know, like friendships and
like Rich Street and stuff like that. Okay, yeah. So,
and then the reason why I'm asking is because one of the things that I think is significant, particularly in Black families and in stuff like this, is we can get so heavy in our own experiences. We're sitting right here with someone and not realizing what they're going through.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then what happens is I can't fully show up for you because I'm so heavy in mine. Mm-hmm. I didn't even recognize your signs. And not realizing, and what she and I didn't realize until later, and perhaps we'll get into that. We have this thing, the forgiveness project that we did. But one of the things we didn't realize was our traumas are linked. Mm-hmm. We didn't even know what the other one was experiencing. In the same household, triggered from the same thing, completely different trauma journey. And she didn't know mine and I didn't know hers.
Now, Kim, I have a quick question for you. In the midst of you taking over this role and being more of like a mom figure, do you feel like you had to shield that trauma or shield any weaknesses because you didn't want her to see you in that light? Because now you're big sister who's responsible and you can't undermine that. What was that experience?
So what it felt like is, and I'm a highly sensitive person. Sensitive, naturally I'm like a little bit flair for like, let me fall out like paper cut, I'm about to die. You know what I'm saying? Let me just fall out. But like when I realized how serious and heavy the household felt, there wasn't room for that, right? So think about it. You have a mom who's dealing with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder. And then for the audience too, one of the things that we don't know about is we hear about bipolar disorder and we think that's like the pinnacle. Like, oh my goodness, somebody got bipolar disorder. Somebody, and we used to be called manic depression. Oh, the bipolar disorder. There are so many mental health illnesses and mood disorders, so many different diagnoses, and we just lump stuff in. But there are some things where it's just like, you think bipolar disorder is a doozy. Borderline personality disorder is such a difficult diagnosis that there are therapists that won't take on a patient who has borderline personality disorder, where they're like, nope, won't do that. And for our mom, she had both.
Yeah.
And suicide ideation.
And she didn't hide it. That's the thing.
Very
she
open.
Was shameless about it.
Like, I have memories. I'm glad, I don't think this happened with you, but my mom would go to therapy sessions and take me.
She took me.
Yeah, as a child. So like we would go to North Central. We just be in North Central in the therapy session. That's not supposed to happen.
She would do this thing where she would like take off her nail polish. There were times where she would go to, like, we'd get our hair done and she'd get her nails done or whatever. But there were times where she would be prepping for her appointment and she would purposefully take off her makeup and her nail polish because she said that she didn't want to give the impression that she was doing better or they would stop her services.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a manipulative component to it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the diagnoses.
Right.
Okay.
And so we grew up watching all of this, knowing about psychotropic meds. Like, we're children, we know carbamazepine, Haldol, amitriptyline. We know what all this stuff is. Right?
Yeah.
But as kids, you're trained like, I need you to go get my medicine. So it's like, give me 2 blues, a white, and
And then the different 50 milligrams, 102, 4, 6, the max dose, time cycles, extended releases, all that.
this medicine gives me a tremor, so I can't sign your paper. So your teacher has permission for you to sign your own schoolwork.
Yep. Her hands would tremor. We would help her with her checks at Big Bear or the grocery stores, stuff like that.
So during all this time, you don't have the opportunity to just be a kid.
No.
To just be a child in a normal world.
No time.
But it's a different kind of code switching, right?
Yes.
Because you're not at track practice, like, well, got to make sure my mom gets her meds. I'm at track practice. Who's going to understand that?
Right.
Lisa's in a writing club. She's a brilliant writer. You're not going to be writing about that in middle school. So you do a code switch, but you're carrying it. So what was interesting is, again, I don't know what she's carrying. She doesn't know what I'm carrying, but we fill the house. And I didn't realize until later, which is why I'm so grateful that she's willing to tell her story, that it was affecting my sister in a completely different way.
Yes.
Much heavier and more severe than I realized. Because I'm just like, emotionally, how I reacted, to answer your question, we did the long, extended journey, right? But what ended up happening with me is numb. Completely numb. Hard. I don't feel anything. And I mastered being numb, which is horrible, but I mastered it. Later on, I would learn that that's actually a thing. Black family, that's the thing. It's called dissociation. And it's where you just completely check out.
Yep.
And your brain does like autopilot this. We're here, we don't even know, we remember. As we have talked about it, and we'll unpack it a little bit, but as my sister and I talk about things from our childhood, there are things that I don't remember and she does. And it's bad for both reasons, because she remembers every detail.
Almost like, what is it, like survivor's guilt? Like the person that survived an accident can witness. I had the bird's eye view of everything that was happening.
And I remember nothing. Like, I have very few details that I remember of something. She'll be like, remember this, remember that? I'm like.
And sometimes that's part of that numbness, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to purposely remove these memories, or I'm going to not pay attention to any detail on purpose.
You're literally fracturing your psyche.
Yes.
So you're not present anymore.
I can't hold on to all of it.
Yeah.
And for context, remember, so my mom has these diagnoses. They're heavy. My brother has heavy anger, resentment about his father. My sister is a baby coming up in all of this. And now I'm the pseudo matriarch in high school.
All under one roof.
Yeah.
You have to still go to school, learn, sit down, be cooperative, and all of this is playing in the back of your head.
Yes.
Daily.
Yes. Right. So did we hit the sweet spot of my high school, your middle school? We're 4.5 years apart. So essentially, if you imagine, if I'm in high school, she's in middle school. If I'm in middle school, she's in elementary school. If I'm in college, she's in high school. And we're doing the four chunk that way through all of this.
Was there ever, with that age gap, was there ever any brief anxiety, like, wow, I'm in middle school alone, my sister's not with me, she's usually always with me? Did you ever have those moments? Okay.
No, actually, I followed Kim. We joke about her being a trailblazer. The one, I guess, bittersweet part of how our ages fell is that I always came behind her in things. So, like, we went to the same middle school, and I was always, to this day, I'm 41 and I'm still known as Kim's little sister. So I always had some sort of strange lookout crew for me, or the teachers always had to take a special interest over me because they favored her. They automatically favored Miss Metz, things like that. So she was never far behind, and word would get back to her if anything were to happen. So I never felt not protected, at least by her.
Nice.
And I think the other thing that happened too is I have my specific DNA for my kind of personality is set up one way. But because of the role that I've had in my sister's life, I become a completely different person that seems very out of character when it comes to my sister. So when I go into protective mode, like, I'm not necessarily a person who's like gonna find someone and stomp on someone and cuss them out.
But she has fist fought people for me before.
Got it. You bothering, baby sis. That's
only,
a problem.
and it only happens
complete hands
for her. But part of the reason why is because we didn't have parental protection. Right? So if something happens, if it goes down on the playground, ain't nobody coming. So I'll take care of it.
I'm the last line of defense.
Yes.
Like I have to
I'm
make
the
sure
first,
we're good.
middle, and last
First,
line
middle,
of defense.
and last.
Yes.
The whole army.
Yes.
So we're going to take care of it, right? And so she knows, even to the point where sometimes there's stuff
that I would almost hide from her just so she wouldn't have to show up.
She still told me, like, there's some things I'm never going to tell you, because she knew, like, I will throw away, which will come up later, I'll throw away my whole career.
Yes. Yep.
Out of defense.
And I will sit down and do the time pleasantly, like.
And she won't think twice about it. That's the thing. I know how.
Get these 3 hots in a cot.
Won't be sorry. That's
Put the money on the books.
That's the thing. Like, for
Put
real.
some money on my books.
Listen, don't let them have some purple Skittles in there. Be like, you good out there? Then I'm good in here.
Quickly put the deed up for bail. Like,
it's not even a problem. And I think because she knew that, and she knew that it was specifically for her.
Yes.
Like, this doesn't extend anywhere else. Not even for me, but it's for her. So she knew there were some situations.
the stuff
she didn't put me in. She didn't put me in. Now, if I smell something, it might go down.
And dig a little deeper, figure it out.
Yeah, and so she's like, she had friends. So we get into like, she had friends coming to the house, and I'm like,
they talking about you behind your back. Like you could sense it.
Oh,
like
she
you just knew.
Oh, she was going for the jugular. She told them straight up, like, I don't like your energy.
and be awkward. She'd be like, this is my friend. Well, I don't know what to do.
She's had people ask, like, how come you don't like me? She's like, I don't know, just cause.
I don't like you. I don't.
You're no good for my sister.
Right.
Period.
But, all right. Y'all
And
need
I'm
anything
just
else in
awkwardly
here?
sitting there like, I'm sorry. You can't come over anymore.
It's not mad. It's not even mean. Like, I wasn't like aggressive. It's like, I just like, it's not, I don't like you now.
Did not.
We can talk. I'm not going to like you after the conversation.
Doesn't matter.
But y'all have a good time though. Enjoy that movie. I don't like you.
That killed the whole vibe. I'm sure.
100%. But looking back, she was absolutely right. She was right about it all. Looking back.
And so Lisa was having an experience that was just stacking and stacking and stacking that I didn't realize. I never understood the friends that you made, and like who you hung around with, because I think it helped. I think it informed how we got to 16.
Okay.
And
basically what I was going through.
And mommy's role in being, like, how she missed
so much.
Yeah.
So I was in this really weird, like, predicament constantly of being bullied. And it was one of those things where it's like, it wasn't, the bullying was, it was this weird conditional space that I kept getting put in, where they would bully me because they didn't know me or that I was smart. I was very unapologetic about, being smart or being good, with the teacher's pet, whatever. I didn't care. Those were the things that's the stuff that would make people angry, because I don't care if you're my friend. Mm-hmm. It was once they got to know me, they wanted to be my friend. And these little sparks would constantly come up where I was a threat in one capacity, where if they're like, their boyfriend liked me, or if I like looked a certain way or whatever. So it's not that I didn't want their friendship. I would have to control myself in order to suppress the bombs, because I already had bombs going off with my mom and her explosions. I wanted to control something. I didn't have control of the house, so maybe I could control my interactions and the bombs going off at school. Yes. So I went through a stage where as I started to develop and went through puberty, I turned into the biggest tomboy you could think of. Think of Chloe from Set It Off, if you've seen the movie.
Yes, I have. Yep.
I was Chloe.
Okay.
And the bullying didn't stop, but it came to a minimum, and it seemed to actually kind of it drew the crowd, whereas more where I think I was trying to it did this like reverse effect where
you thought it would push people away where you could just be by yourself.
And it just drew them in like magnets. Like, now she's cool, but it's not what I was doing it for.
And think about the context when we're talking about it, where we're from, the neighborhoods that we're from, right? And because of the neighborhoods that we're from, that looks like, are you challenging me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anything and everything is a
I'm
challenge.
trying to go under the radar. But and then also too, although we joked about it in the beginning, part of Lisa's story and her complexity was she's this pretty little girl, right? She always, you're so pretty, you're so, but she's like, I'm not getting any attention that I want.
Yeah, it was too much. Like I wouldn't have to do anything. Like there were incidences where I had to, it was so bad in the schools that I was at, mom put me on a school that was almost an hour away on a bus, on a COTA bus, driving through the city of Columbus by myself. And
at what age?
12.
Sheesh.
And the predatory, like I would literally be shrinking in my seat on the bus, taking the bus as early as I possibly could in the morning just to avoid the predators. And it got worse over time. It was horrible. It's like they knew where I would change bus stops. I would get followed. It was terrifying. And I would be missing the bus on purpose at night. I would take up after school activities just so, I could either get a ride from it. There were a couple times where the teachers would bring me home or whatever, or I'd have a friend ride with me. I mean, it was bad. Like I literally wouldn't be having to do anything, but the guilt was there because I didn't have anybody to talk to. I internalized that I have to be doing something wrong. Like, what am I doing to be causing this? It was confusing, but I didn't have anybody to talk to bounce that off of.
Do you think mommy knew? What was going on with mommy while
she had no idea. She was so self-absorbed in her misery. I think the quieter I was, the better off she was. She preferred it that way. She needed to know that. I think that the fact that I wasn't complaining and that my grades were good let her know things were okay.
Literally and figuratively minimalizing your voice.
Yes.
No voice.
And that was
suppressing no voice at all.
And as long as I didn't complain and my grades were good and she never got a phone call from school, she was fine. And the outburst she wouldn't have the outburst. She would stress about something. She was always stressed about something. At least it wasn't about
that.
Yeah.
And then to your point, I'm so glad you mentioned it because the theme for our podcast this year is finding your voice. So what's interesting about this is, and you immediately identified it. You see what's happening is she's losing voice
perpetually.
Everywhere.
At a young age, over and over and over. Yeah.
Right, where then she's internalizing that safety means having zero voice. You do not speak. You do not bring any attention to yourself.
Because the one times that it would backfire. I'm going to jump you. I'm going to, we're going to jump you after school or whatever. And I'd get followed. It's just.
And that's external. And then internal.
And then I go home and I have nobody to tell that to.
Yeah. So you have no release and it's constricted, compacted in you. Yes.
And so, and I'm the person. I'm her person, but I'm not her sister.
Yeah, your role shift where she would have normally been able to come to you to release somebody I can relate to. Your role has shifted where that's not a normal thing anymore.
I didn't want her going out because I knew what she was going to do. She was going to confront it head on. And she was a track star, a volleyball star. She was 4.0. I mean, she had great things going for her. The last thing that I wanted was her getting in trouble for me. So I knew if I told her anything, it was a wrap for them.
She was going to put it on the line for
100%. And she did not hold back. For the little things that I did tell her, she did not hold back. So there were things where I'm like, nope, I'm not messing this up for her. Because I knew, strangely, I was cognizant enough to know she was going through stuff too. So there was some stuff where I'm like, nope, I have to let her have that. I have to let her have that. And then people being, I'm Kim's little sister. The teachers absolutely loved her. Like, absolutely loved her. I wanted that for her. I absolutely wanted that for her. And the last thing that I was going to do is mess that up by having her disrupt the little bit that she got for me. That wasn't, because it was at least a win for me too.
But in retrospect, I hear that and I'm thinking, you sacrificed more of your voice for me.
But it was a win for me because I'm Kim's little sister.
Yeah, but that doesn't let you be Lisa.
But then I wouldn't have had you. You were the example.
Yeah. It just got,
I needed that.
Yeah. And I hear it.
I needed that. I needed that. We had nothing else.
We didn't. It was really us. And so we have an older brother, but our older brother moved out the house the same year my mom had a nervous breakdown, stopped working, and I took over the family. Okay. Other brother moved out the house. So it was...
He was 15. He moved out and got his own place at 15 years old.
So it was my sister, my mom, and me. So it's really like whatever mommy's doing, and then us.
And I'm noticing like a push and pull here. Like the moments where you guys needed each other the most are the same moments where you try to avoid each other or shield each other from like what you're going through.
Yeah, because I didn't want her having my stuff.
In the same way she didn't want you having her stuff.
So then we're in the house of the parallel trauma stories, right? Although this is a lot, the big stuff actually happened after this.
Yeah.
Right? So this is moving past our mom's suicide attempt, catching that.
More than one.
Right?
She had a couple.
I move off to college, and I take all of my secrets with me. And one of the things I felt vulnerable about is when I go to college, she's there by herself.
Yeah. So how are you even focusing on coursework, classes, anything with that kind of in the back of your mind?
Not giving her my heaviness. And then what I didn't realize, and this is where I want you to start to, what was going on with you while I was in college?
Oh.
Because at this point, remember, her protector's not in the house.
Yes.
Right? And I was like, I'm like stink on doo-doo. Like if someone's sniffing around, I'm like, I don't like how they're looking at you.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like this. I'm watching everything. And I'm not there now.
Well, I mean, things went off the rails. You would imagine any teenager that's being unsupervised, that was never really given, I don't want to say not any proper home training, but any real direction.
Structure, lack of structure.
Absolutely. The worst that you could think happened, I maintained making sure she didn't get those phone calls. I maintained making sure that I stayed out of trouble. And I maintained, as far as with the law, and I maintained my grades. And as long as I did that, she was fine. She was so focused on herself and her things that I pretty much did whatever I wanted. Like I had no direction. So I, as naturally, got a boyfriend, and I learned how to lie.
Well,
you know what?
No, but you're right. It wasn't good.
This is the thing. The thing that upsets me with, I was dating a boy in high school.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't, because it was
you
not
didn't,
good. You didn't even have to be. That's
I didn't even have to go out of my way to lie.
She didn't have to be a good liar because my mom wanted her.
She got told exactly what she wanted to hear and was fine with that, and she should have. She never questioned anything. Long story short, I developed a boyfriend that I was allowed to stay weekends and weeks at a time with, under the premise that I was babysitting his little sister. She was never there half the time. And then there's shock that I ended up pregnant at 16, 17 years old. Right. Now, she never fact checked anything. You should never allow your teenage daughter to spend the nights overnight with any boy's house under any circumstances. But then it goes back to where I knew that I could get away with it because it's like you never supervised me before. You didn't care before if I was getting bullied and threatened to be jumped before, if I was going to get beat up before. What makes you care if I'm out having sex? She didn't.
And it plays with that narrative of as long as you're out the way, she's happy. As long as you don't bring nothing to her doorstep, as far as like complaints or anything.
And now she doesn't even have to feed me or worry about me, the electric or whatever, you know what I mean? All the little things that probably mattered to her, where I was maybe slurping some of the energy out of her life, was out now.
And this dysfunction worked for both of them for a while until I graduated from college and came back home.
Yeah.
Now, what's that explosion like? Because we have a Kim potentially on fire. Hey, I'm back. And you're coming into this. And what does that environment look like for you now? Leaving college and then coming back from college. What does that look like?
So what was bizarre about it is, remember, I'm the pseudo matriarch of the household. Mm-hmm. My mother and I have an inverse relationship. So if you saw my mother and I interact, I'm the mom, she's the kid. So
was that an easy transition? Like, did she pass you the keys back, basically?
It had always been like
she never had the keys.
Got it.
Right, so once there were keys, they were mine.
Yeah.
Right, and so what it looked like is I came home to my 2 kids.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm looking in like, what are you doing? Like, why are you letting her go over there? We're not doing that. What are you doing? Like, right, and so then I
didn't want to be there with her.
Right, which I understood.
I didn't want to be there in that space.
But it's like there's nowhere to go. Where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
I got tired of being hungry. I got tired of her being depressed. I got tired of the pills and me having to walk to the grocery store for her. Like I got tired. She basically probably wanted me to be another Kim, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Or to take care of her. But Lisa didn't get assigned that role. I did. Right. And then you have an apartment this big, right, with 3 people in it, trying to figure this out. Well, not really grown, because she's a child.
Yeah. This is still young ages. Yeah.
And the amazing part, I think, of when Lisa first got pregnant is my mom thought she was a virgin. So you missed everything.
A whole lot of stuff.
So how would it be that I come back and I've been gone 3 years and I immediately am like, where have you been? Because I'm on Lisa. Like, nope. Yeah. Who's that? Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. And I'm disrupting everything.
Yeah.
And just to clarify for the audience, when you returned home, Lisa, are you already pregnant at that point? So you're kind of
Nobody knew yet. Nobody knew yet.
Oh, was that before? I couldn't remember.
I'm at Temple. Michael calls because mommy's about to have another nervous breakdown and be hospitalized. So our brother, he's in now another state. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking I'm about to do life in Philadelphia and I'm about to do this East Coast thing or whatever. And my brother calls me long distance, so we don't talk. Because my brother and I didn't get along when we were younger because we had beef about our dads. So he calls me long distance like, mommy's sick. I don't know what to do. I think she's about to have to go into the hospital. I'm not sure. I can't get back up here because my family, what are you going to do? So what do? I finished my quarter in grad school. I'm in an MBA program in Temple. I finished the quarter. I pack everything up and I moved back to Ohio because I had a feeling this is not going to be a quick one. I give it all up. I move back. I immediately know mommy's not okay. What's going on with Lisa? I know my sister, so I'm like, you're being secretive. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what you're doing.
And I was.
Something's up.
Kind of like maternal instincts.
Yeah, I know my
instincts.
baby.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And I think I was actually doing it a little intentionally in a way. Like some of it was just kind of blatant, just to see if does anybody care?
And the thing is, because of our relationship, which we felt like almost like a supernatural kind of connection, she leaves breadcrumbs for me. Which would come up later, right? She leaves breadcrumbs for me. So I'm looking at breadcrumbs like something's up.
And it was.
So then we find out, we want to get into the story. We find out not only is she not a virgin, she's pregnant.
And I'm far along, like almost 4 months.
Okay.
Because I don't know anything about pregnancy. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, there's never no birds and the bees type of talk. There's never no, this is how you interact with the opposite sex, no type of pre-education. You're just on the fly.
Because what we're seeing is a mom who is crying after being lonely, mourning boyfriends, wanting someone to take care of her, to take it right. And so the things that we're internalizing, we don't realize. I didn't realize what I was internalizing was, let me take care of you to make sure you're okay so you can be a mom to me.
Wow.
But I didn't know I was doing that, right? But I need to make sure, like, I need you to not freak out. I need you to be calm.
That's all this was.
I just need you to not freak out.
We just don't want you to freak out.
You freak out and you end up in the hospital. You freak out and too many pills are taken. You freak out and you're in your room for 2 weeks.
The lights get shut off. We don't eat.
Lose you.
Yeah.
The electric bill doesn't get paid. We don't eat. I need you to be okay so you can be present.
It doesn't happen as frequently because it was still happening with her there. Yeah.
So when in the absence of her being okay, I take over, this whole kind of deal. So at this point, I'm just trying to like get our arms back around this. I'm like, something's up with Lisa. Then we find out she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. Well, Lisa's been watching my mom do a horrible job of being a mom, which it took us years and a lot of therapy to be like, that wasn't good.
I think we subconsciously knew that because in the beginning, I wasn't even going to have Anthony because I knew that was the whole thing. I wasn't going to have the baby. Mm-hmm. That was the part of the panic, is to get Kim on board, because I had already made the decision I was going to have it because I knew I had no idea what to do with it because nobody knew what to do with me. Yeah. And that was the panic button that I think mom hit, was not only is she pregnant, we have to save the child.
That's kind of like that fear we mentioned on the previous episode, where you don't want to replicate the generational things that happen to you, right? I fear I might do the same thing that happened to me, to my child.
I was terrified. Yeah. Yes.
And so they get me for recon. I'm recon, right? Mm-hmm. I'm emotionless. I'm numb.
Still numb, right? Kim's still numb.
I take care of stuff. I'm cleanup. I'm Olivia Pope, right? So I come in, I clean up the stuff. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. All right, you have let all of this run amok. You go into your room and sit down. Lisa, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna get a job at a factory. What's the baby's gonna need? That's why? Don't worry about that. If that's your concern, we got your back, right? All right, I'm gonna get a job. We're gonna buy a crib. We're gonna do whatever. The dad's family was like buying stuff.
Got me 2 cars.
Bought her a car. Boom, you working. What do they have? We'll duplicate everything here, so you don't have to go over there. Mm-hmm. So if that's where the crib, we'll get you a crib here. We'll do all the right. All the stuff. My mom's just sitting here.
Now, mind you, I think one of the important elements is that the paternal grandmother was kind of bossy and bullying me, and then she stepped in.
And I'm sure all that stopped.
Oh. Yeah, because our mom didn't.
Because that was kind of why I kind of got trapped out there. Was part of the issue was I didn't always want to be out there, but the paternal grandmother kind of needed somebody to control her situation too.
Got it.
So that made it easy. And my mom, our mother's paranoid of confrontation.
So
it would have required a confrontation.
Yeah, and Kim came in and just completely snubbed it out, and yeah, it was like
it stopped.
Whiplash.
And so then I'm like, well, I need a life too, right?
Oh, because all this time, Kim's life has been put on hold.
Yes.
To come put these fires out.
Yes.
So then life goes on a little bit. The baby's here, this whole kind of thing. Then Lisa, I'm fast forwarding a couple years later, meets someone, gets married.
Yeah.
Gets married. So I'm thinking, okay, our mom's still a hot mess. I'm married now. Lisa's married now. I think we're good. And then I'll let you.
And that was a disaster. That was a whole nother bully situation. If there was a time I lost my voice, that was the moment in my life where I think I lost it the most. And
wow,
it was like a black hole. And I didn't know how to get out. It was like the harder I fought, the more it pulled me down. And to a point where I think I gave up for a while. I gave completely up.
And that was also a time when our relationship was the most fractured.
Yeah.
Because I think because she was so heavy, she kind of stopped talking to me. And so I'm like, but we always feel connected, so we felt the disconnect.
Yeah.
And it was very, very painful.
It was one of those things where it's like, I didn't feel like we related. I wasn't sure. It's like, where do you begin? It's not even here. This isn't even where the problem started. It's like, not only do we not have the same issues, I don't even know where to begin to start to fix it, explain it. This is my life, that's your life. Maybe this is just how it has to be. This is my response. This is what I did to myself. This is my bed. I'm going to lay in it.
And I'm seeing that pattern there too, where you want to not reveal everything because you know how Kim will react out of defense for you.
Oh yeah, and shame.
Yeah.
It started to become shameful because it's one of those things where it's like, this is, once you become adulthood and you set you set your groundwork for how things are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. As soon as I found out it was wrong, I felt trapped. I didn't know what to do. I think I went into shutdown mode and just was accepting that this is maybe this is how it's supposed to be for me.
And then I didn't realize that it wasn't just radio silence, but she was in harm's way.
Yeah.
Like, not metaphorically. She was in harm's
Literally.
way.
Emotional abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, neglect.
And I can't get to her. Right? Like, you're over there. You're not talking to me. You're not bringing this to me. But you are probably in the darkest place you've ever been. And the person who identifies the role as your protector, your only one, can't get to you. And our mom was kind of co-signing that relationship.
Yeah. It was a catch-22 with that situation because it was at least he's taking care of me. At least I'm getting
I was
attention.
just about to say that.
Yeah.
Which is...
The standard was probably relatively low, and I'm just kind of looking at the pattern there because she's kind of looking for someone to kind of, as long as you have somebody to take care of you, you're good.
That's what I wanted,
you just
and
deal
you
with
got
the other
it.
stuff. Right.
And
so she thought you upgraded.
Yes. And I'm outside thinking like something's up, right? And I'm not sure what brought us back to be connected. What was it that reconnected us?
It was Carmen. So I went through some
Carmen's, for clarity, Carmen's baby number 3.
The third egg. I went through some tragedies. It was I had some on top of already a bad situation. As if things couldn't get worse, they did. Mm-hmm. And I fell apart. I had a nervous breakdown, and I made some judgment calls, probably just out of sheer ignorance, that were against my better judgment. Mm-hmm. I can admit that. Got myself into a situation to where my back was against the wall so bad, I had nowhere else to turn to but to ask for help, like legal issues, like ended up in jail type things. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where it's like, you know what? You're going to have to do something. If there's anything you have to do, save the kids. It's not about you anymore.
And this is this mother's love, right?
And I'm seeing the pattern because Kim, in the same way, you're like, as long as my babies are okay, you like school on the back burner, I'm going to come back. And in the same way, you're like, whatever I have to do to make sure my kids are taken care of. And it's a common thing in the Black community.
It took some hard knocks on the head, though, because there were some decisions that I was trying to make as a big girl. Yeah. Because I wanted to show that I could do it, or I didn't want to bother or inconvenience anybody. That finally enough life happened to where I think it was one of those things where the universe kept saying, stop. Just all the secrets, all the secrecy and darkness and everything that you think you're doing, you're making these bad decisions, stop now. Mm-hmm. And I had to make the hardest but most loving decision ever was to say, you know what, I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I flat out said, I don't know what I'm doing. Will you help me? And the one thing was, I can't take care of my baby right now. I am not okay, and I don't know what to do with her. Will you take her and help me with her? And she got blended into this family so quick. There are pictures in their albums where she looks like a third sister. And she responded, well, Kim would do anything for me. Like, I almost don't feel worthy of her love because anytime I wanted to see her, she was willing to go off the books for whatever the visitations were supposed to be. Like, we did it legally, the guardianship, but she would let me pick her up from daycare. Like, she was doing anything. She just wanted she wanted to reunify me with my daughter because she knows as a mother of a daughter, that's the only time you're ever going to be in your right state of mind. And she did everything in her power to make sure that I toed the line so I could get her back. Because I was also in a predicament to where I had to give up the other child to the paternal grandparent that we were battling. Mm-hmm. And that situation, they were polarizing situations to where I was actually fighting for my time for that child, where Kim couldn't push hard enough for me to make sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do so I could get her back.
Wow.
But it meant opening up.
And then middle baby at the time.
Oh, and he had that was so complicated because I ended up having to send him to his father. His father was deported. He was Mexican. He was deported. And there was such a violent reaction on top of everything else that was happening. You know, this high school sweetheart, that father died, all kinds of things. My father died, like all these layers of things that were happening that led to my breakdown, that the kids were feeling it and they were having their own reactions. And the middle child was not having any of my mess.
And let's be clear, and I don't want to tell your business, but
no, you're fine.
I think what's important to know is we're not just talking about like, oh, he was deported. It was a violent deportation.
Yeah. It was bad.
Like,
it was violent.
Busting through the door and the child
raiding my house. Yeah.
It was.
And then me hearing him being transported and screaming and stuff like that, and getting like lawyers from literally New York flying in and trying to mitigate the situation. And it was actually an illegal deportation, but the government didn't care. As soon as they got him over the border, it was out of their jurisdiction to fight it. It didn't matter if it was illegal or not. He's out of the jurisdiction. That's all they cared about.
Yeah.
So the middle child was closest to him. I had no choice but to send him to his dad. I mean, he's like biting in school, stuff like that. I had to send Carmen and my sister, and I had to send my oldest, the first one, to that grandparent, even though the father died.
And what are their ages at this point in time, to give context?
So
Carmen was about 3.
Yeah, she was like 2 because she went to Mexico at 3. Mm-hmm. She was 2. Elias would have been 5. And Anthony, he's like 11.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They're all real little.
Okay.
And now think ripples, right? That's where the babies are. 3 different places. Mommy's working on some stuff. Yeah. Auntie has this sibling. Our mom is still just in the stratosphere, not helpful, not a protector, co-signing the worst parts of the story.
Horrible things.
Like the worst parts of the story. Like, well, it's okay. No, that's not okay. Right? So now, and at this point, she's bouncing in between our houses. As Lisa's getting well, she's bouncing between our houses.
Living with us off and on.
Okay, mm-hmm. Okay.
And then let's take it to Carmen. Lisa is, I say, when you think about someone being a survivor, like the dictionary I don't care who people mention them, like, oh, this person, I'm like, you don't know my sister, right? So like,
no,
she's like ultimate phoenix, like comes back from the dead and comes back from the dead and comes back from the dead. Well, she comes back, she bounces back, job, money, let's get focused, gets Carmen back, and in trying to like do all of this stuff the right way, the family in Mexico wants to meet the baby. Mm-hmm. So,
at the same time, there's an element to the story where after I was starting to get everything together, I still had a desire to get my family back together. There was a part of me that was resigned to becoming an expatriate, moving down to Mexico to have our family back together, because the middle child was already down there with the father. The pull was strong. The pull was still strong.
And I want to say that's also mother's love, because that wasn't like, I want this for me. It's like the babies.
Yeah, you're putting them first.
Yeah. Of course. Like, I can't do this. I clearly can't do this up here by myself. Mm-hmm. So after I got everything together, I took the time that I was by myself to literally clean up a whole lot of things. And I mean,
everything.
Crazy tax liens where we had a business that was dissolved. I mean, everything. I grinded trying to fix everything, got my legal
2-3 jobs
taken care of. 2-3 jobs, working insane hours, got Carmen back, got Anthony back, decided, okay, I don't ever want to do that again. I'm going to move down there. They want to see the baby anyway.
Right.
So I send the two. I send the oldest, and I want to keep my babies together. We were split up. I'm keeping my babies together. So all three of them were reunified down there in Mexico. And I took advantage up here because I was tying up affairs to move down there.
Mm-hmm.
And
then
a year, literally weeks before I go down, because I had a lot of battles up here that I had to tie up before I could go. Mm-hmm. My son gets,
and this is where I think spiritual link is important to reference here.
I'm going into Anthony's thing.
Yeah, remember I called my sister one morning and I said, I had a dream. Remember?
Yes.
I woke up. I had a dream and I woke up and I started bursting into tears crying.
Yes.
And I woke her up. I said, I'm sorry, but I had a dream and I think it's about Anthony.
Yes. And that kept happening.
Yeah. And I kept dreaming. I would
dream about dreams of things.
I would dream about things and
she
I would
hit on things and I didn't want to tell her that she was onto something. She would have dreams about like my dad, and there were moments where I was missing him more, and she had a dream about Anthony, and
I said, check on him. I don't.
Wow.
Just check on him.
I think something's wrong. She sure did. And within weeks of me uprooting to leave, like I had already like given notices at jobs and apartments and things like that. Right after that, within days, he was literally sent back overnight, heavily addicted to drugs.
And how old? Anthony.
Yes,
right?
the
how old
oldest.
is Anthony at this point?
He was like 15, 16. He was heavily addicted to drugs. He had been shipped off. He had been involved in the actual Mexican cartel as what's called a dog fighter, mm-hmm. where they would throw him in pit fights, and he could fight, and he would have to fight for his survival because they would tell him, if you don't get this money, we're gonna kill you. And they got him hooked on drugs, and he got mixed up into a situation, and the scary and specific incident that sent him back was they started to, because he wanted to get out of it, they started to steal, like raid and steal from the house that he was at. And remember, he's not the biological child. So he was put out on the street. He was literally homeless in Mexico. Like, they put him out. He was being neglected. Nobody told me this. And he had no way to get in contact with me. I was getting little bits. And she's dreaming this. Well, I guess when he went to go back because he felt guilty, yeah, no, I'm not a child, and he's being told you're an illegitimate or whatever, he went to go fight for the property, to return the property, and they went to stab him. They went to shank him, and he grabbed the blade and barely missed getting him in his gut, and they sliced his hand up. Wow. While he's still strung out on drugs. And for whatever reason, the stepfather said, I can't let you die down here. And he literally just throws him on a bus and ships him back like he's trash. And after seeing that and hearing, like, I'm looking at my child just completely dumbfounded, like, oh my gosh, I almost made the biggest mistake of my life. Like, what am I getting into? And he's just telling me these horrific things. And he's in horrible shape. And I'm watching him kick drugs on the floor of his bedroom. Sick, sweating, like
kicking.
Literally kicking drugs, hard drugs, like the Schedule I drugs.
Yeah.
And next to death, that is something a mother, I would never, ever wish that on any mother. The one thing I would never do, if any kind of pain, is inflict the pain on the child. The child did not deserve that. And I says, I'm done. I'm done with the issues. I'm done with the bad decisions. I'm done with the problems. I'm done with everything.
And on metaphoric level, what is this? This is the rebirth of a voice.
Yes.
Right? The seed is planted. Mm-hmm. It's breaking into this and it's about to come up. Mm-hmm. When we plant a seed, the roots grow first. These are the roots. So then a couple years, Anthony gets better.
Yeah, Anthony starts to get better. He's getting stronger.
You're getting stronger.
I'm letting him have a voice that I didn't realize he didn't have either. Mm-hmm. And there's something that kicks in that you can't even explain that takes over. It was like something, I can't even explain it until you have your own child. But it was one of those things where it's like, I know how it feels to be neglected and abandoned. We're not doing this today, not on my watch. I can do better. I am capable of better. I'm better. Yeah, we're not doing this today. So I made the decision. I had sent money.
Because there were years.
Yeah, Anthony was down there for a year. Carmen was down there for 3 years. Elias was there for 6. Now, in this battle where I was asking to see the kids, because he could still feel me kind of pull back and forth or whatever. I had flown down a couple times to see how things were going in the meantime. Mm-hmm. But the struggle of getting them back, he didn't trust it. No, you need to come here, you need to come here. So Elias, I had seen him, but he hadn't been back for 6 years. After I'd made the decision, we're not doing this today. Like after I started to really see things for what they were, and I had to admit some things, some really, really hard, ugly truths about myself. And that I'm worth more, and this is ugly, this is a mess, and if you wanted better for me and my children, you would have never even allowed that to happen. And actually saying things, and where's this coming from? And it's like, I couldn't keep it anymore. It literally sprang out like a jack in the box. Like I just said, we're not doing this. Yeah, you're gonna give me my kid. Not only am I not coming down there, you're giving me my kids back.
Yeah, because at this point, they're almost being held against your will.
Yes, at this point.
Hostage.
Yes.
Got it.
At this point, talking like, I'm going to send her back, and it's the airport, and he's sending a picture of my niece at the airport. We missed the flight.
Sorry, we missed the flight, and he sends a picture of her.
Send some money.
Lets me get all the way to
Chicago.
I send a ticket for her to fly to O'Hare in Chicago, and I get there, and I'm waiting, and I'm asking him what's going on. Like, is she on the plane? No, sorry, she missed her flight. Sends me a picture of her.
And over these 3 years, these 6 years, my sister would call me inconsolably crying, thinking I'm never going to see these babies again. And I can't do anything, right? Because this is my baby. And I have a special relationship with these kids.
They basically your grandbabies.
Yeah, and I'm like,
oh my gosh.
You see that?
Yeah, and I'm like,
they become grandbabies.
And I'm like, I can't protect any of them. I've only known my relationship with my sisters as a protector. This is a specific, significant switch in our relationship, because this is when I go into a sister relationship where she needed me as a sister, not as a mother, right? So all I can do is hold space for you, because we don't know how we're going to get through this. Right. She's weeping. She would just weep and weep and weep. And then this supernatural thing happens.
I remember the moment where we had that conversation where I asked you to be my sister.
Yeah.
We were battling back and forth. I think the longer it took for me to get down there, the move, like as I started to procrastinate and work on, the kids, I would make up excuses. Well, everybody wants to see them before they're gone for good. So why don't you bring them back? And he was catching on. He's like, no, they can come down here or whatever. Like there began to be this really nasty push and pull where I think he was catching on that I was starting to get cold feet.
Yeah.
And at one point when I finally made the decision after Anthony came back and I said, oh, I'm done. Like I'm not playing games with them more. Not only am I not coming down there, you're giving me my kids back. Kim kicked in the role where she was willing to do illegal things. She's like, all right, this what going down. We gonna get a room in Texas, and we gonna get a car.
I was setting up master plans. Now at this point, I'm like an administrator out of college. I remember
serious talking about depleting her savings. Like we gonna get,
I'm gonna drain the accounts.
Yep,
we're gonna get a car.
We gonna get a car, and we gonna get this. What'd you coyote? You called it coyote? Yeah, we gonna smuggle these kids back. And I'm like,
somebody at the border.
I remember that day we're on the phone. And I'm pacing in the backyard. We're in this little suburbs. I literally had, chirping. And I'm talking about, I literally had like, I'm in a suburb. I drive a Mini Cooper. I have a white picket fence
suit, maybe.
A dog and 2 kids, and I'm in the backyard. Like, here's how it's going down.
And she was serious, and I had to stop
I was like,
her.
so we gotta. I just need to call my other friends. Okay, so I'll call my other friends, and here's what we're gonna do, right? Because my babies. And my babies.
Yeah.
Okay. So you fly down. All right, I'm gonna come on the bus. Okay, I'm gonna be on this side of the border. You good? And at first, she's like listening, like, okay, okay, you know. And then
I'm like, wait a minute.
Time out.
Honestly, I don't even
Willing
think I
to
was.
throw her life away.
I don't even think I was listening to her anymore. She was like, Kim, you can't do it. I'm like, anyway, so here's what we about to. I'll take some vacation. We'll pull out the 403B. You know.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this.
And then the miracle happens. It goes radio silence. And then I log on to Facebook and I just see a picture.
It was the kids.
No, that wasn't the first one.
Oh, you're talking about the crumbs?
She left me breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
She posts a picture on her Facebook. And
of
all
the
is
airports that I was
a picture of the departure.
No caption.
And a city.
Yeah.
There's no caption or anything. And then I'm like, what's going on?
It started in Indiana or Illinois.
And then there was another one and another
And it went to Mexico City.
And I said,
and then to Guadalajara.
She went to go get the babies. And she didn't tell anyone because she knew we would stop her because she went by herself. And her whole thing was...
And he threatened to kill me. He told me, he says, if you come down here, I'm going to put you in a coffin. And he put his hands on me before. He's beat me up before. I didn't care.
And her thing was, I'd rather die with them knowing that I risked my life to go get them. So I figured out the breadcrumbs before anybody else. And she's in a relationship and everything. And I'm like... What's going on? What's going on? And so I'm at work. I don't even know what happened at work. I'm just watching the breadcrumbs. Okay, she's here now. Okay, she's here now. And I'm like, she's doing this so if anything happens.
Nobody picked that up.
I said, she's doing this so that if anything happens, we know where to find her.
And you had to know that Kim's going to pick it up. Because this isn't the first time breadcrumbs have been left.
Absolutely. I said at the very least she'll know where my body is because I thought I was going to die. I did.
And so I waited. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I waited. And I waited and I waited. And then there was one gap where it just went completely black.
Silent for 22 hours?
And we knew this one because I knew that was a cross the border gap because we knew with Coyotes, that's when it goes silent.
Well,
and
I brought the reverse. Legally, it was on a bus.
Yeah, it wasn't that, but we know in the reverse.
Yeah.
When you have that block, it's going down. So I knew when it was like too much radio silence, this is it, right? I'm having
She's
dreams.
There. You knew praying, I was there.
Right.
I made it there.
Praying and dreams and all this kind of stuff. Radio silence. Family calling. What's going on? No one knows. The next post is her on a Greyhound bus with both the kids. I'm like, oh.
And the third one was already here. So just so people know.
We're overwhelmed.
I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I'm like crying and I'm like, oh my God. Because you don't understand this, this shouldn't be possible. But not just that this shouldn't be possible. She shouldn't even be here. If you knew all of her story, she shouldn't even be here. She's a miracle. My sister is a walking miracle. And Absolutely. She just made a miracle happen. This is a miracle. She stood up to a person who's physically abused her in your town, in front of your family, I'm taking my kids.
It's me.
How
what
about
you gonna
that?
do?
We about to get on this bus.
Right.
These babies didn't even speak English anymore. And I said, oh, my God.
From zero voice to the loudest voice.
The loudest voice.
I think I scared him at one point. He was shaking. At one point he was getting to the airport and I called him and I went off so bad that he called me back and you could hear the shaking in his voice. And that was new for me, but.
You snatched that power back.
Yes.
On the spot.
Yes. And the babies see it, right? So they didn't see their mom go in a coffin. They see their mom she snatched us up and had the house ready for us when we got there.
Yeah.
Right?
And
it was
on the move ever since.
I don't have words to explain. When I got over there, I spent money buying clothes and stuff.
Sure did.
I was ready.
Ridiculous. Kim, Carmen can't even. She bought so far in advance. I said, Carmen will never be able to get into these boots for at least a year.
I don't care. I just need to know.
Christmas.
Big old clothes. Yes.
I'm balling out.
Yeah, but what
For my
I
baby.
needed,
Just extra.
what I needed though, and I was like, at this point, we're not factoring anyone. And honestly, we love our brother, but this love affair. Like my sister and I've always said that my first love is her, right? And so I just needed the door to open, right? I'm almost choked up. Like I needed the door to open, and I needed to see her. I just needed to see her, and then I saw her, and then I saw them. And I'm like, she's gonna be okay. She spent her whole life with no voice, her whole life in so much pain, and nobody knows what she was experiencing but her. And she's had to deal with all this pain in her own body, mind, and spirit by herself, and then fighting for all these people, putting everyone else in front of her. So this was a supernatural thing that's happened in Mexico. This is the beginning of the origin story of who she's about to become. And I would tell Lisa all the time, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. I wish you could see how powerful you actually are. I wish you could see who you actually are through my eyes. And that was the beginning of it. And then I saw my babies who couldn't even really communicate with me. I just needed to see them. And I knew they were going to be okay. And it was chaos, right? But it's chaos here.
All three of them in one space was overwhelming.
It's chaos here. And I'm like, oh my God. Because she has this voice that's being birthed now, they're going to have a voice. And it was like, just see, I remember that evening. And my nephew, my middle nephew, Elias, he's outside and he's like a grown man because he's been like working in Mexico like a little grown man. And I went outside and I'm like, my sister is in the living room and everybody's here. And I stand outside and it's nighttime and my nephew's just looking out. Because remember, he's looking at an Ohio sky. He don't barely remember an Ohio sky. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how you doing? He's just a beautiful night. I'm like, oh my God. Like, we're going to be okay. I don't know what this will look like, but we're going to be okay. And the years, like, rebuilding, you imagine rebuilding the whole kind of thing.
Oh, they're a handful now.
but to see that, I'm like, in spite of having no protection, in spite of having to raise my mother, in spite of having to be a mom to my sister and then try to transition into being a sister to my sister, in spite of everything that my sister has been through, including some things that she's already told me, I'm never going to tell you. I'm never going to tell you. We're here. Like, that's what being a mother did for her. Like, she found her voice by being a mother and she wasn't mothered.
Wow. You might have to say that one more time.
Right?
Yeah,
like she didn't get mothered. And that's how she found her voice. And her babies will only know her. They will only remember her as a fighter. They'll never know her not having a voice.
Yep.
I've never thought of it that way.
So like,
it was a new beginning. Mm-hmm. It was a new beginning, new voice, and they witnessed that transformation live when you were willing to put your life on the line for them, and for them to witness that. They knew.
I never thought of it that way.
And in that moment, we break a generational curse.
Wow.
That's how it happens. Yeah.
And that's how the story unfolds, folks. That's how the story unfolds.
Yep. So this is maybe a proper way to just sit and appreciate silence as a voice, right? Like, absolutely. We're talking about us. These are our stories. And you said something that I want to just put in here. This is why we stopped keeping family secrets. Like, family secrets almost destroyed this family. Right? We stopped that. And we heal out loud. And that's what our family is doing right now. We're walking this out right now. So I am so grateful. I love you so much.
I love you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
And
thank you for having me.
The strength and the courage to share your story and to be a positive example for anyone listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor being here. Thank you.
And all the moms out there who think you're in something that you cannot get out of. Like, I'll never survive this thing. She survived 2, 3, 4, 5 of them and thought she had no voice. You do. You are so
know
powerful.
your worth. Know your worth.
Yes.
You're powerful.
Know your worth.
And it's worth it. You're worth it. Thank you. We're worth it.
We're worth
Yes.
I love you, nephew.
I love you too, Auntie. It's a lot of love going on right now. It's a lot of positive energy right now.
Yes. So
Love
thank you
care.
for tuning in. And until the next time,
Until the next time,
I'm Kim Brazwell.
I'm DeVaughn Croxton.
This is
Lisa Rojas.
And we're grateful, and we're grateful. Grace abounds. Grace, acceptance, forgiveness abounds. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.